All right, welcome back, everybody. This is something a little different. You're going to see here when I switch to that camera that I've changed something, but it's not permanent. It's just for this video. I want to tell you about the greatest hero of all time. That's right over here, right above me and below me. And if you already watched my other channel, I posted a video, Soghomon Tehlirian, hero for Nagorno-Karabakh, something like that. I haven't quite titled it yet. I just recorded it, but I'm posting this because this being the activist channel where I'm advocating for statehood for Artsakh, sovereignty for the nation of Artsakh, the tiny Armenian Christian hamlet, or this little place, gorgeous place on earth that is being bombed right now. But on this channel, it's also my Christian brothers and sisters. And so I need to tell you how important this guy, Soghomon Tehlirian, is. Now, Christian Armenians, like, it's almost redundant. 99% of Armenians self-identify as Christian. But what that means is there's Protestant, Catholic, and Armenian Apostolic. And the majority are Armenian Apostolic, which means they're just born into it and they may not go and attend church, but they side with Christ. But then I'm a Protestant Christian, and that's where I come into this story. I have an affinity for this entire population because they love Jesus and I love Jesus. And this channel, Sovereign Artsakh, is aimed at Christians, at those who believe, those who love God, love Jesus. And then this guy, Armenian Christians, Armenian Protestants in particular, that know who he is, have a little bit of an issue. Like, this guy assassinated someone. He killed someone. How can he be a hero? It's like this cognitive dissonance. How can we, praise someone who's done such a heinous act? Well, if you see right below, it says, I killed a man, but I am not a murderer. And so if you take the 10 Commandments and say, thou shalt not kill, it really means thou shalt not murder. He said, I killed a man, but I'm not a murderer, and he was acquitted. So in a jury of his peers, and indeed a jury of his enemies, arguably, because the Germans were allies to the Ottomans who killed the Armenians. And so that jury acquitted him. I'm babbling on, but I just want to say, I look at Soghomon Tehlirian as a modern-day judge. If you go into the book of Judges, you've got Gideon and Samson and Deborah, and there's a bunch of them that there was no religious authority or no kingly authority to rule Israel, to lead Israel. And so God appointed judges to do some incredible things, like sneak into a tent and drive a tent peg through the bad guy's forehead. I mean, that was God's will. Samson pulled down the pillars of this temple and killed like 3,000 people. He died in it as well, but it was God's will. He was the judge. And so here's Soghomon Tehlirian, and the guy who orchestrated the massacre of 1.5 million of his own countrymen was put in a position to kill the architect of the genocide. And not only was this guy the architect of the genocide, but he was the inspiration for Adolf Hitler. So this guy encouraged and taught others how to be genocidal maniacs. The first genocidal maniac of the 20th century. So being a Christian, it's like, yeah, I have to resolve, like, this guy's a hero's hero. Like, Braveheart has nothing on this guy. Schindler's List has nothing on this guy. This guy's like, and here's something I'm just going to say here. I believe that Soghomon was guided by God to do what he did. This is his memoir, and I've read the whole thing in English. It's being translated in English right now for the first time. I think there's an unauthorized version out there, but I have the authorization of the family. So this is the only authorized version. It's about to be, we're going to get it published next year in the 100-year anniversary, but I've read it. And it reads like read like Old Testament scripture. I mean, I don't mean to blaspheme, okay? But it just reads like this guy was so burdened by something weighing upon him. I'm telling you, his mother, 6 years before he got to Talaat, the architect of the genocide, 6 years earlier, his mother appeared to him in a nightmare. Now, the Bible's full of dreams and visions and God speaking to people. And his mother said, you got to kill him. Now we can say, okay, he was crazy and he had a psychotic rift and he was so obsessed that he couldn't focus on anything until he found the guy. And most people that happens to, they go crazy and then they fail and they wither away or just become insane, right? If you're so focused on some task that seems insurmountable and impossible, like he didn't know how to get a hold of this guy. He was after the architect, the top guy from the Ottoman Empire who escaped and was concealed by his allies, like in some far off place. And he's wandering around Europe. It's like, anybody want to help me find Talaat? And they're like, kid, you're crazy. But he did it. So 6 years earlier, when his mother's ghost appears to him, and it happened over and over again, he would see her face in the dark window when he would look out. I mean, he saw her head rolling toward him and speaking to him. I mean, this guy had vivid hallucinations or appearances that told him the future, that he was going to assassinate Talaat Pasha. So we would say he was motivated by it. But as a Christian, he was seeing the future. You have to recognize that justice, divine justice, was his to do. He was appointed. Again, you as you other Christians can judge me for blaspheming or whatever, but that's the way this story reads, and the jury acquitted him. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say. It's like he never felt like he did anything wrong. Read the words below me. I killed a man, but I am not a murderer. And when he was acquitted, there was a law student named Raphael Lemkin who said, yeah, he did the right thing, but he shouldn't have had to do that. International law should have held those butchers accountable, yet they didn't. There's no international law that could do that. And the Americans and the Allies who promised the Armenians that they would do that, they didn't do it. And here the poor Armenians are left with a tiny little sliver of country, just barely bigger than Nagorno-Karabakh. There's just this tiny little piece of land left for the Christians that used to occupy all that, the whole region. And nobody came to their defense. Yet Soghomon Tehlirian was raised up by the ghost of his mother, who was a godly woman and the daughter of a preacher man. I mean, in his memoir, he talks about a memory when he was a child watching one of his older brothers, the one who died. He had 3 brothers, and one died in the genocide, and he had a memory of his brother watching his brother imitate his grandfather wearing a shawl and preaching. So the memoir will be translated and you'll be able to read it for yourself. I'm excited that I get to be a part of this. The family has appointed me to bring all this about. All right, that's enough. I just posted another video on Tales of Truth. Go over there. Oh yeah, and subscribe and share and click the notification bell. The views are going up. The subscriptions are going up. This is what we need to do. We need to get President Trump to recognize statehood for Artsakh.